There are a couple things you need to know before you begin a dye project. First things first, you want to make sure that all the materials, the pots and the pans, the spoons, anything that you use for dye projects are going to be just for that. What I did is I hit up a local thrift shop. I was able to get everything I need for $20 or less. I've got multiple pots, one for steaming, one for dye baths. I've got a sieve. I've got all the things that I could possibly need. And they're all secondhand. The second thing that you want to know is that if you want something to last long, you should mordant your fabric. Based on the type of fabric, whether it's an animal fabric like wool or silk, or a plant fabric like cotton or linen, that is going to determine the type of mordanting process that you're going to use. That's a whole other video, so I won't be covering it today, but I will link a couple of articles down below that will help give you an idea of how much mordant to use, what type of mordant based off of the fabric type, and that will get you started. It's also important to note that you don't have to mordant. So if you're just doing this for a fun activity, don't feel the pressure of having to mordant your fabric. When I started my natural dye journey of just diving in and seeing what showed up, it was so much fun, and not even knowing that I needed to mordant anything, it really just relaxed me and allowed it to just be a fun, playful project. And so if you're really wanting this to just be playful and fun, then I suggest you skip mordanting altogether. If you do want really long-lasting, vibrant, super saturated colors, then mordanting is for you. But the drawback to some mordanting is it's often associated with alum and sulfate. And if you're doing this project with children, then it's a little bit more challenging to make sure that they're involved but also safe. There are natural mordants like oak galls and pomegranate skins. Both of those are high in something called tannins, which help adhere color to your fabric. So you can also look into alternatives as well, but like I said, that's practically a whole other video in and of itself. I'm happy to dive into it later, but I won't be doing it today. So let's just dive in, have fun, make something beautiful, and it's a very easy process, as you will see. I'm excited to see what you guys create. We are going to be dyeing silk scarves today using Coreopsis flowers. There are a few supplies that you're going to need. It doesn't have to be silk, but depending on the fabric that you're going to use will determine the mordanting process in order for you to dye your scarves. Simply looking for a fun activity to do, you don't really have to go through the mordanting process. That just helps with color fastness and light fastness, which in layman terms means that it's going to help the color last longer. So I have a scarf that I like to practice on. I test out different materials, I see how they last, I see what colors they produce, I see how dark the colors become, and then I have a brand new scarf here. Both of these are from Dharma Trading Company, and they're fantastic. I've used their clothing as well as their scarves multiple times, and the results are all wonderful. So I also have twine because we're going to be doing eco prints. Choosing a twine to wrap your project, make sure it is undyed, because otherwise sometimes that dye color within the twine can actually transfer to your project, and you really don't want that. Here we have one of my scarves. This one's undyed. Here is the twine I will be using. It is also undyed. And this is a little metal pipe. I simply cut it down to size so that it fits in my steamer. Of course, we have shears for clipping my flowers, the steam pot. This is just the insert, and then I also have the pot that I put the steamer inside of, and all of this goes on the stove top just with a couple inches of water at the bottom. So here's my Coreopsis garden bed. It's just a small flower patch, but it can create a really beautiful design. So we're going to trim some of these and we're going to bring them over to our workstation so that we can begin creating a composition. Now that we have our Coreopsis flowers, we are ready to begin. First thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that your material that you will be doing the eco print on is slightly damp. So we're going to go put a little bit of water on these. All right, my fabric is now damp. I'm going to give it a squeeze so you can see. See, no water is coming out of it as I squeeze it, so truly you do want it damp, you don't want it dripping, you don't want it super wet, or else that's going to distort the eco print that you're trying to create. Alright, so I've laid out my scarf here as flat as possible. So what you want to keep in mind is how you're planning on folding your material. You can either just wrap it in a bundle die form, or you can make it an eco print, which you're trying to really capture the essence of the material that you're trying to use. So I've got my beautiful flower. I want to keep some of the stems on just to see what it looks like once it's been steamed. I'm going to fold this over the top like this. So I want to take that into account when I begin. Making a little crease along here so that I can see where the midline is. Alright, so you see the indentation is still there. I'm giving the flower a little bit of a squish to help flatten it out. Use this time to just play around. I'm gonna snap off some of the stems. Alright, so now that I have my composition, I'm going to take the fabric and then I'm going to fold it over carefully. I'm going to give a little press. And I'm going to fold this over once more. It's already so beautiful. Okay, and now I have my pipe. I'm going to roll tightly. Try to keep your bundle as tight as possible. Our eco print and our bundle die, and we're going to pop both of these into my steamer and let them steam for about an hour. Alright, these just came out of the dye bath. We're going to let them cool off. Oh my goodness, it's so beautifully saturated. You can see that there's variations of the saturation, and that is just due to where the actual flower was placed and how the fabric was folded. Now all I need to do is get rid of any petals and stems that are left over and give the scarf a rinse, just washing off any remaining plant matter. So beautiful. Now all we need to do is let it dry. I try to keep it out of the sunlight while it dries, and it's ready to go.